Oh, good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. I was out fishing yesterday and spent some time in the sun. Woo, doggy, I tell you what, the sun is hot up here in Ohio, especially if when I haven't been out in the sun for that amount of time in a long time. It was cloudy in the morning and then it was very foggy and then it was very sunny in the afternoon. And I didn't catch a fish, but my husband caught one fish and he let it go back. But it's that time of year where the fish aren't biting, maybe they're spawning, and so it wasn't really lucky at all, which is fine. I mean, I was happy to be on the boat, learning how to drive the boat, and I'm fine with not driving the boat because it's too much power for anybody, much less me. So, but I was out there for a long, long time, and I also got used to all of the pollen out there. So I wasn't congested, but I was blowing my nose a lot. And so it means that my body is calibrating to the environment because when you're out there on the water with the winds blowing at you and the sun, I did get burnt a little bit. I don't know if you can see it here, but I did get some burning. And last night I took my J juice and dotted my face. And instead of this morning using mint and like peppermint oil and water like I usually do, just kind of refresh to wake me up, I used my Jilly juice on my face and just use the peppermint oil and water in my mouth to just kind of freshen it up. Because I like freshening, like feeling fresh from mint. So that's my usual regimen, but this morning I changed it because since my body is healing from the sun exposure, I used my juice and it actually helped last night. Like I felt like there was no burning. And it's taken the burn down significantly because it's healing faster. I mean, these are superficial wounds and as far as a sunburn, but it will turn into a tan. However, other than that, I was just kind of going through my newsfeed this morning, and the memory came up that was for today, and it was for the testing of the juice. That was when I got queried by the Ohio Attorney General, and they actually never asked me to test the juice. One of my friends on my Facebook, she says, because I had all those questions, like that letter came in the mail, and I thought it was from one of my trolls trying to spoof me, so I almost didn't believe the letter. So I actually called up the OAG, the Ohio Attorney General, because it came in regular mail. It wasn't like certified. It wasn't anything like that. So I opened the mail and it had she said, just like 10 questions, but there was like a whole leading introduction where you can't say this and can't say that. And we want you to substantiate all of your claims because they were getting phone calls left and right from everybody and their mother. And I'm sure you can read that BuzzFeed article, how like even Interpol was even called. Like, holy crap, I don't know how cabbage water and salt would create that much controversy, but my God, it did. And I guess it was also the claims, not even just the cabbage water and salt in of itself, which is nothing. It was the claims that I was making that they were just having a freaking field day with, having an issue with. So when I got that letter and I finally got it substantiated that it was from the actual government, I was like, oh my God. I was talking to my husband like, oh my God, what the hell? And I talked to the people that I was talking to at the time, and they were just like, one of them said, why don't you get it tested? And so I'm like, you know what? I never really thought of that because I can go find recipes all day long and substantiate them, because their fermentation has been around for centuries. I can go easily do that. But what would be even more substantial would be to go get it tested by a food lab. And a food lab would then test the lactic acid count or the colony forming units. So 300,000 colony forming units is a lot of units. And that's what came back. First, it was too numerous to count because I sent them a little jar of the Jilly juice and it had the pink salt in it. So you can only imagine with the white salt that it would have a lot of colony forming units of lactic acid. Okay, so anyway, so it came back too numerous to count, and then finally they did dilute it and count it, and there was an official number, and it's been a while. but it was like around that many colony forming units. And that, I think in my last book, the one that I discontinued, it said how many, but it doesn't even matter how many. It was tested in a food lab. It has lactic acid. It's probiotic. Okay. So it's not antibiotic. Right there is the proof. Okay. Right there is a proof that, Jilly Juice is probiotic, and it's also matched with salt that we came from the sea, and which has electrolytes and has also the micro macronutrition from the cabbage and kale. So that was an excellent memory. And I like when I have friends on my Facebook and you guys are digging through my Facebook, these are the type of memories that I want you guys to bring up, not memories from when I was talking about stuff and it may have spoke about the old recipe. Hey, everybody. Hey, Adrian. I don't want people sharing videos that I don't want to have to listen to see if they're saying some old stuff. What I want is the newer videos to be shared to your friends and family so they don't get confused, because I've gone through an evolution. I've been through the allopathic, I've been through the holistic, I've been through the conspiracy world. I mean, I've been through so many different worlds that if you share videos from 2 years ago, I'm not in the same place. Okay. So if you're going to share anything from the memory, share something that's written that is relevant today. So that way, people that watch my videos and you're trying to share Jilly Juice and you're sharing videos from 2 or 3 years ago, it's not going to be relevant. It'll confuse the hell out of them. Okay, so when I get triggered, it's because people are sharing videos from 2 years ago that I'm like, dude, I know it seems like it's been a long time and you want to share how far I've come, but you know how far I've come. You've been on my Facebook. There's no need to prove it, because information, and whatever information you give people, they think it's relevant at the time. Okay, so that's just my request for those that are digging into my Facebook, because some of you are friends and you're going to see all my stuff from way back when. So you know I'm not a fake person or a paid shill for Big Pharma, as I've been accused of by people that have known me for a while. And because I understand the value of allopathic doesn't mean I'm a shill for Big Pharma. It means that there's value in everything, but does it mean that that's the Jilly Juice way? No, but there are people that don't do Jilly Juice that need to have the 11th hour. And maybe they don't want to live forever, as they claim, I'm saying, or they don't want to live indefinitely. And so they want to have where they want to live, but they don't want to live too long, which I don't understand that either. But that's the mentality when you have a misalignment of the body, mind, and spirit. So they're going to need all the different cures because they just want their stay of execution, and they're willing to roll the dice and see if they can take it. And not many can. I mean, obviously, you've seen people that don't survive the chemotherapy and radiation or cannabis, if their body is that depleted. So you better hope you have what it takes to handle the cures that are out there in the holistic and the allopathic market. Okay. So I'm not a shill for Big Pharma. I really am not. I just know there's value in it all and there's balance. And the whole point of Jilly Juice is to get off of Big Pharma. But we have to give value because some people are on Big Pharma right now on prescription drugs, trying to transition from their prescription drugs onto Jilly Juice with the intention to get off the prescription drugs and the holistic remedies, because those are just as bad, if not worse. Okay? So, but yeah, those that call me a shill for Big Pharma because I'm not fitting within their narrative, because they want me to go against Monsanto and vaccines, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sell out to them. Or people say, oh, I've sold out to them. No, I haven't. I'm just saying I understand the value. It's called balance, being objective, not subjective, but being objective. And that's the point of Jilly Juice, is objectivity, where you understand the whole. Okay, not just the pieces of it, and then your whole life and in the way you think is filtered through all of those pieces of the things that you are just focusing on. No different than when you're focusing and filtering everything through your cancer, disease, and chronic illness, which you cannot possibly be objective when you are that sick, unless you're looking at J Juice and you still are subjective. You still are on the anti-vax world, which I get, but you're not spouting that on my Facebook. I get that people are still, going to be dealing with their cancer, disease, and chronic illness on the Jilly Juice, and they'll still come from that subjective point of view until they stay on it long enough to where they understand the value in all things, and it's about balance. Thank you, Adrian. It's about balance, okay? And then we have the intention to have a specific outcome, but we understand that there is a transition period, no different than vaccines, a transition period for some people who are strong enough to handle the environment, but they're getting, they don't know about J Juice, and they can do the vaccine and they won't have major adverse reactions because they won't have to upgrade as much. Cancer, disease, and chronic illness and all diagnosable diseases is a body trying to upgrade, and you're not giving it what it needs to where you never have to see that upgrade process ever again. So when you're born and you have these cancer, disease, and chronic illness, the body's trying to upgrade and you're not equipped because you're not giving your body what it needs. You're not giving your kids what they need for their body to upgrade and adapt. And then this is where people have chronic conditions because the body is continuously trying to recalibrate. And, you may have enough of the nutrients to be able to develop and adapt, but you are at a, I don't say minimal basis, but people adapt and grow up where they don't have 100% of what it takes to maximize their potential. So you can see a child grow up with issues and they're adapting with their issues, but you know that there's something going on with them and they're not going to tell you their medical history because it's none of your business, right? It's a whole HIPAA thing, but they are growing up and adapting with their deficiencies. And that is what I'm trying to focus with the J Juice, is that we don't have to accept our deficiencies and our adaptation to our deficiencies. We can actually fix those deficiencies where you adapt to a better version of yourself than adapt to a lesser version of yourself. And then that also comes with, the ability to expand your mind to say that, you can acknowledge that you have disabilities and deficiencies, but it doesn't mean that you have to accept them as this is your reality. This is your cards that you've been dealt, and that's what you have to take. No, you don't have to take that, but you have to be cognitively aware that you don't have to take that. But some people are so cognitively unaware, and their parents are very cognitively unaware, that they will never give their child or themselves that opportunity to not have to deal with the cards that were dealt with them. And that's the nature of the beast. And so you can't discount that they're going to be using the vaccines because they'll never, ever get away from needing modern medicine. There's some people that are just totally not aware, and then they're going to be using the prescription drugs. They're going to be using all the things that we're like, hey, that's not the point of J Juice, because they don't have that conceptual understanding to expand their mind to say that they don't have to accept what was given to them. And, and I have to deal with that with the people in my world, and they're very cognitively aware. But when it comes to life indefinite, when it comes to reversing cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and I'm not a medical doctor and all of that, that's what stops them from understanding where I'm coming from. And so it doesn't take someone that's totally disabled to not understand where I'm coming from. It takes someone that has relatively adapted to this society and the way in which they run society, and they can't get out of that. And okay, I can't force them, so I'm okay, that's fine. And they live the life they live, and that's it. And maybe they might wake up, who knows? So I'm going through my newsfeed. Yes, in some of my pictures, I don't smile because I don't like smiling because it looks so fake. When I try to catch myself in a natural, but when it comes to pictures, when I'm trying to pose and do selfies, I try to find the best angle, and then when I take a picture of it, it just looks weird. So I just do the whole not smiling thing, and then you can catch me my natural way through videos. Okay, so whatever. So anyways, gaining weight and losing weight. So this is the thing about gaining weight and losing weight. Now that when I first started the Jilly Juice protocol, I was very, very, I would say, bloated. I had a lot of water retention because I was dehydrated. And when you're dehydrated with water retention, but I had no high blood pressure, okay, just so you know, I had no heart issues. But my antidiuretic hormone was triggered. And when you have a triggering of your antidiuretic hormone and you don't have high blood pressure and you're not on prescription drugs and all that stuff, you tend to swell, okay? And so there are pictures of me back in 2016 when I visited my parents back then. My parents saw me it was summer of 2016, and I was drinking like the kombuchas and apple cider vinegars and trying to do all this holistic stuff, and it was steadily making me look worse and worse and worse. But I looked like I was bloated. My face was so puffy. I mean, it was just like my body was just puffy. Okay. And so, and there's pictures of me actually in my feature photos of my progression of battling with the water retention. So I wasn't really fat. I was just bloated. Okay. And so when you're on the J Juice, you're going to go through stages where I did lose a lot of weight. And it wasn't like, it was more water weight and then some fat because I was staying away from carbs. Because the initial diet, which I know Krista McGinn professed that she liked, the diet, which I understand, Krista. I remember you said that, and I'm like, and you're so good, Krista, because you understand that But the thing with the JJs is I can't tell people to stay on this diet because, like, someone in Krista's situation, she had to stay away from a lot of different foods. And so it kind of helped her remember to stay away from certain foods. But that was her personal journey. And she needed to gain the weight. And so she probably needed to have all of those carbs at some point. So some people, when they first start the J juice, are so underweight that they're going to need to have every food in the food supply. And so having a diet doesn't make sense where you restrict yourself, because some people can't restrict themselves because they have underweight issues and they need to gain weight. And so there is like 2 ways to gain weight on the J juice. I have in the book that's coming out in June where you can add fruit syrup and maple syrup to the J juice after it's been fermented, and that gives you the calories. Or you could eat, the carbs, the pastas and the breads, and then match it with the J juice. So all of that is synced up together. Or you can stay away if you're very obese, not just bloated. Like I wasn't obese, but I was just bloated. If you really are obese, then do the J juice. Do like the potatoes for your carbs, okay? Stay away from a lot of the carbs and the sugary stuff. Don't put the syrup in the juice, any kind of sugar syrup in the juice, and just drink the J juice. And that will help release a lot of the excess weight, because you're going to dilate your blood vessels, because the prostaglandins are going to dilate your blood vessels. It'll be expressed and released. And then the blood could be moving through all of the dark parts of yourself, and that blood is life, okay? People out there don't understand that blood is life, and that, yes, the potential to regrow arms and legs and organs and stuff that you're born without. Yes, that potential is there if you can handle the pain process. So anyways, so when you dilate your blood vessels and you allow all the blood to go to the different parts of your body, and then with that, you regulate your biochemistry to where then you will then stop releasing that antidiuretic hormone. All of the water weight and your fat cells will shrink and disappear. And I was very, very skinny. There's a picture of my husband and I in front of his truck where I'm like kind of like hanging on to him like some little parasite, It was so cute. But I was really skinny back then, okay? Now, finally, I'm at I would say, because I've been, during the COVID, the last 3 months, ever since COVID, I had to keep feeding my body because I was going through an upgrade. I mean, I had the headaches, I had the weird just sensations of feeling kind of like vertigo, off kilter, dizzy, the diarrhea, maybe some excess mucus and all that stuff. And so I was eating a lot this last 3 months. And I wouldn't say I'm overweight, but there's a few vanity pounds, okay? That if I'm not drinking a bunch of J juice and staying away from the sugar stuff, which I needed to, because I needed to have the amount of meat that I needed to, because my brain was expanding, and so you need to feed your brain with the meat, okay? I definitely am very. I mean, I'm pretty. I'm not gonna show you my whole body, but like I have a butt now. I have everything, and I'm actually like really strong. And if I want to, I can go run a mile. Well, I won't run a mile, but I can go work out and really just get the 6-pack. I mean, I have a little tiny little belly, but not really that. It's not horrible. But I mean, yeah, if I want to go do some sit-ups, I go do some sit-ups. And so you finally will have the right amount of body to you. And then if you want to sculpt it, you can go sculpt it. But this is what, as you get way further on the day, you reverse most of your issues, and your body is now at a comfortable weight, okay, to where, and then you can go exercise to sculpt your body, but you're not doing it because you're trying to lose weight. You're not doing it trying to be healthy. You're doing it because you want to firm up the areas that are more vanity than anything else. Because let me tell you, it's bathing suit season. And so, it would be nice, so if I drink more of the J juice, because the Coke, I've been drinking a lot of Coke. I've been eating a lot more pasta stuff. And so how you can kind of control that, since, some people might go overboard and eat more sugary stuff, and so it puts on more pounds, and then you're not drinking enough J juice, you're not taking in enough energy. So when you're doing the J juice, that's like that's like exercising your cells. And when you exercise your cells, the cells release the excess. And when you do a lot of J juice, a lot of exercise, right? No different than when you go out there to a gym or do yoga or do some kind of like aerobics, right? That's exercising your cells at the macro level. However, if you're not replenishing with the nutrients, because you can't just live on J juice alone either. You got to have food. If someone just to live on J juice and just do exercise, they will deplete themselves. They will hurt themselves. So you have to bring in the sugar to keep that whole balance to your system. Okay. And so I'm learning now, finally, I'm at a point where I can kind of play with the weight and play with the fat and play with the muscles and play with what I can do. I understand how to balance out the salt and the sugar and potentially even sculpt the vanity parts of my body. Okay. But I'm perfectly healthy. Like I can handle I can probably go to any environment and be able to handle it. I went out into the sun yesterday. I was able to handle it. Yeah, I'm a little sunburned, but my body is bouncing back, and I use the J juice to kind of help with the acceleration of the healing process. But for the most part, I can handle whatever environment that's out there. Okay. But if you are so underweight, if you're just doing the J juice and not eating any food, and you're only a vegan vegetarian, and you're also doing exercise, it's going to tax your body to such an extent that you have to bring in other foods to help build up the muscles and help build up and protect your vital organs. Okay? Because you got to have a good, well-balanced, healthy body. So Crystal looks great. She has fat in her face, not like fat bad, but she's filled out. She looks like, I told her, she looks like a fairy sprite in one of her pictures. She looks healthy. Okay? And so, I have a diverse diet. I don't discriminate. And so when you do the J juice, you could eat whatever, and then you know how to balance it all out with the J juice, because the salt will always, with the J juice and the probiotics and the micro and macronutrition, will always balance out any excess sugar. And so, if I want to, again, make a 6-pack, I can go do a bunch of sit-ups, drink the J juice, and play that game, and eat a bunch of meat to build up muscles, and drink the J juice. Okay, so that's how you can really sculpt your body based upon the expectations of society. Because girls with 6-packs and cut arms and legs and all cute, yeah, they're very attractive and they're looking for a mate. Okay, I'm married, so my husband loves me no matter what. Okay, so I'm not too worried about that. But bathing suit season coming up, I would love to have a 6-pack. So I could then, do just a J juice, stay off the sugars, and do a few sit-ups, and I could probably see a change. And that's how you can morph your body relative to what you want to do in a safe way without discriminating against anything, really. But you are just lessening something, but you're not eradicating it altogether. And then once you get to that specific point, like a 6-pack or whatever, then you just maintain that and still maintain the J juice. Eat minimally, don't overdo it on the sugary stuff, and then you can keep that nice balance. But that's when you finally get through all of your different diagnoses. I'm 4 years into it, where I can now look at how I want to now manipulate my body relative to society's expectations and relative to what I would be happy with vanity-wise. Not that it's necessary. It's not necessary to have a 6-pack. It's not necessary to have like cut arms. Okay, but I'm not overly fat. I'm not overly skinny. I'm not overly anything. I don't do any discrimination in the food supply. Okay. And I'm very, very healthy. Okay. And I know how to upgrade to different environments and adapt. So let's say it comes really, really cold, my body temperature will adapt. I won't be too cold. I was cold yesterday when we were out there in the water, like at 5 in the freaking morning. Oh my God. And he was going like 45 miles per hour on the water. And that's fast, okay? And yeah, I was cold. I wasn't like so cold where I was like dying inside, like I usually am when it's cold outside, especially when you're going on the water on a boat. And I was able to adapt. I didn't love it. I mean, but I could handle it for that short amount of time, going from one end of the lake to the other end of the lake. But yeah, I was able to adapt to it. And then the heat I was able to adapt to, and also recover from a lot of sun. And so the J juice will help your ability to adapt to all different conditions without taking on accumulations or having, extreme underweight issues, which have their own situations and unto themselves as far as diagnosable diseases. Okay, so you're going to learn objectivity on the J juice. You're going to learn balance. And I think that's why you've seen me flip from going from one extreme to the other and then finding that happy medium in between. Because you saw me, you saw how the diet was in the beginning. You saw how I was so anti-vax and anti-this, anti-that. And then I see the value in it all, but still, I'm going to warn people not to do and take like these herbal holistic remedies for health as supplements, because you don't need to. If you want to take black seeds, put them as a seasoning. If black seeds taste good, put them as a seasoning on your dish. Okay? Put them as a seasoning on your dish, but you don't need to take it like in oil forms. If you like garlic and ginger, you don't need to take it in large amounts and volumes in a drink with lemon water and everything else. That's not necessary, because that amount of volume would actually inhibit cell replication at the micro level in your microbiome. But if you happen to season your food with it and it mixes in and it's balanced with other foods, hey, fine. But there's no need to take conglomerations of these specific antibiotic foods and anti-inflammatory foods because you're trying to manage something. No, you don't want to stop the healing process. You want to embrace it and then support your body correctly with the right balance of fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals, and that's in the food supply. And the J juice helps then energize the body to then maximize its potential, because you have the salt, the probiotics, and the micro and macronutrition. The salt is the energizing force. But some people forget the J juice, just do the salt or saltwater flushes, and then they haven't fixed their leaky gut. They're energizing their system to then move, but it's not, there isn't enough resources on reserve. So then it starts taking the reserve, which is your hair, skin, and nails and bones. And that's when you see then people doing saltwater flushes still aging and degrading because they don't know how to maximize their nutritional absorption, where the body doesn't have to steal from Peter to pay Paul. Okay? And so with the J juice is that, yes, you're energizing your body and it's not cannibalized off. It's just going to do what it needs to do. And then you have the nutritional backup with the food supply and with the J juice. And then you're able to adapt to your conditions. And that's the same thing. It's like we don't do the cryotherapies. We don't do the hot yogas. We don't do the saunas. I mean, that's not required. And really, it's not necessary on the J juice, because what you're doing is you're energizing your body to cannibalize itself. And then you're depleting your resources on an exponential level, when really it's the juice gives you the same, but it also has the other half, which is the nutritional support and the electrolytes and all of that. When you're sweating, you're losing electrolytes. When you are jumping in really cold water, you're energizing your body, bringing up antibodies to keep you warm, so you can keep the temperature so you don't die. And that's also caused the body to basically cannibalize itself. And so that's why you see people who are doing the polar therapies and all those things. They are still aging and degrading. Those that play, the breathing games where they hold their breath for such a long time. I mean, I had to post an article that says, don't hold your breath. You need oxygen. People that hold their breath, they're now having a mixture. They're keeping in the nitrogen and the carbon dioxide, and it's poisoning them. Okay. So, they need oxygen, but then not too much oxygen. Okay. You have to have a good amount of both. So anyway, this whole thing with balance and too high of a temperature and too cold of a temperature, the chili juice thrives. The lactobacillus thrives between 65 and 72 degrees. Your body is going to be at internal temperature of like 98.6, give or take. I think they've changed that a little bit, but I don't know why they changed it. But the average, I would say, what I've noticed is 98.6. Okay, so for your external temperature, which should be between 65 and 72. However, I like my house to be 73. Okay, I don't like it 65. I can handle 65 weather. That means I'll just wear more coats. But to grow the J juice, it should be between 65 and 72 degrees for at least 3 days. And if it's colder, a bit more. Okay. And so when you throw your body in too hot of a temperature and you're not cooling it down on a consistent basis, yeah, you can be out there playing in the sun, but you can't be in the sun so long where your body is now so hot and then it starts burning up. You need to find cooler shade so you don't burn up, right? Well, same thing. You don't want to be outside in below 65 on a continuous basis or jumping in and doing cold showers, which I don't understand why people do that, but whatever. You don't want to shock your system in too hot or too cold. You don't want to shock your system in so much exercise, okay? There is a balance to it all. And so the J juice will do the exercise for you. The J juice will calibrate your temperature for you. Because the salt does that, but it's back with the probiotics and with the nutrition. And then you'll understand how salt and sugar are like the yin and yang. The sugar will bring on what the salt takes off. The salt takes off what the sugar takes on. Okay, so sugar adds more of the fats and the energy sources. They store the fats, and that's fine. And then the salt will then energize a body to burn the energy and recalibrate your biochemistry. So then you start seeing the excess water retention leave. You're not pumping your antidiuretic hormone to keep releasing that, and then you're all bloated. And then the salt will then help you bring in water to your body that you can also release, because the salt and the J juice will then dilate your blood vessels because it's releasing prostaglandins, and then your blood is able to move freely. And this is where, yes, the potential to regrow arms, if you can handle the pain, the blood getting to the end of your stump, and then you start feeling the pain, and we haven't seen it yet because how many people can handle that kind of pain over a long period of time? Well, maybe one day somebody will do that experiment and will deal with the pain over a long period of time. Okay, so the J juice can do it all. Okay, it can do it in lieu of exercise. It can do it in lieu of hot and cold, shocking, holistic remedies, type of stuff. The J juice is a universal protocol. It can do it all, and it will recalibrate your body's biochemistry and temperature controls. Okay, and so then, this is for my parents. So, my mom's probably not going to watch this because she's going to do her own thing. My dad's on my Facebook. He probably sees my stuff occasionally. But this is what I say to all the parents out there that are not listening to their kids around the J juice. If parents gave you life and most of the tools to handle life, and they expect you to heed their warnings and stay alive, it's only fair that if we talk about the J juice to you, parents, that maybe you might consider our information, because we considered your information and actually heeded your warnings for the most part for at least 18 years. So you owe us, parents, to listen to us. You owe us, generation prior, people who are older than me that think they know it all in your 50s and 60s. We've listened to you and all of your advice, you upperclassmen. Maybe it's time you return the favor and say, hey, you know what? Maybe the younger generation might have something to contribute. We have credibility. We've been around this earth too. We have something to contribute to you. Allow us to contribute to you, older generation, upperclassmen, older generation, upperclassmen. You owe it to us, because we have taken on your warnings and all of that, and we've listened to you for many, many years. It's time you listen to us, okay? And vice versa. Some of you still need to be a parent and still guide your kids. Some of you need to listen to your parents because they've listened to you for so freaking many years. Maybe it's time you start listening to them, because you don't know it all, because you're aging and you're degrading. You can't come from an objective point of view because you're seeing everything through your cancer, disease, chronic illness, and aging. And so now you know that you're jaded. You can't possibly give something objective. So now, so now it's time for you to listen to somebody else that has information backed by science. Okay, substantiated by science. Now the outcome is not substantiated, like as far as indefinite life, but what is indefinite life? That's so subjective. Okay, when you have all the right science that contributes to life, death would not be an option unless something like out of your control, like a plane crash or a tornado that you just were not aware of because you were sleeping. But if you were paying attention to your radar, then you'd see that maybe a tornado might come up, because you see all of that red and yellow lines that are coming at you from the west, and maybe you should go to your basement while you're sleeping so that way you don't get caught up in a tornado. So even then, death would be very hard to come by for somebody that understands indicators. But if you are ignoring your indicators and you're bringing in imbalances in your body, mind, and spirit and food supply because you have imbalances and you accept death, then, then that's just that's what you accepted. And that's what we deal with as far as the Dilly people, is that we deal with people who just don't care to hear about our information because they're so used to buying into that people should die. When you're told that you need to save this much money for retirement and you have to do this and then life insurance and all of that, it means that you're going to die at some point. People are going to capitalize on your death. To say that, hey, maybe you shouldn't die is like blasphemy, especially if you're in that profession of life insurance or anything else that has to do with retirement and all that. It's like, why would I want to live past my retirement? Why would I want to live past, whatever? I've basically built everything the last 10, 15 years for my death. I already have the plot. I already have the funeral arrangements. I already have that money saved up. Why the hell would I change my mind? Yeah, that's what we deal with people on the JJs. People are already prepared for their death. They've already had the planning and the finances, and to change it would be like weird to them. Okay? But whatever. You can't talk to them, really. So yeah, as far as, is it dangerous to hold your breath? I was watching this guy that does We Are Change. I won't say his name. You might know who he is, but he's one that leads We Are Change and stuff. And he's doing all of these holding his breath stuff. So it's dangerous to hold your breath. Holding your breath too long can have some side effects, including low heart rate from a lack of oxygen, CO2 buildup in your bloodstream, nitrogen narcosis, a dangerous buildup of nitrogen gases in your blood that can make you feel disoriented or inebriated, common amongst deep sea divers. Okay, so don't freaking hold your breath because somebody said there's some kind of therapeutic health benefit to it. Don't be an idiot. No different than don't be immersed in your body in cold water over long periods of time. Don't be putting your body in hot situations all the time. I mean, come on, stop shocking your system because you're trying to find an upset of your homeostasis so you can stop feeling pain. You need to feel pain because that's a healing process. But all these things that people are doing in the holistic world are just basically destroying themselves. I mean, it's totally the antithesis of their intention. That's the misalignment of the body, mind, and spirit, is when you say you want to live, but you do everything else that will not support life. Okay, and you're imbalanced. So if you exercise the micro, you won't have to do the revolutions of the macro. See, it's about macro and micro. There's micro revolution, there's macro revolution. There's no such thing as macro revolution that will give you a longevity, because macro revolution is how you guide society in a specific way. To really evolve, it has to be done for the micro level. Not like, okay, we're just going to change the categories of sexual orientation. No, that's like a macro evolution where you kind of change societal constructs to accept something that may be different. Micro revolution is where it actually speaks to evolution. But it may not be on the macro level because you're dealing with people who are macroly following each other. That's the mainstream and the alternative mainstream. And I know I say that because it sounds like I'm being, I don't know, like, it sounds very cliche, mainstream, so whatever, right? But yeah, I mean, when you do something on a macro level, it's where the majority buys into something and then you follow the majority. So mainstream media is guiding our society to now have more of an acceptance of diversity, which, okay, fine, I get it. Yes, we don't want people hurting each other because they're different. But to really evolve in our society, to really truly evolve, it has to happen at the micro level. You have to see that you can have death and reproduction at the micro level, to where then you don't have to trigger actual macro reproduction, and at the macro level to where you're bearing babies and having indiscriminate sex because you have to mitigate against extinction. When you have death and reproduction at the micro level, the body is able to purge out what it doesn't need and then regrow what it does need. And then you have maintained a good life-giving homeostasis where you don't have to die at the macro level or reproduce at the macro level, because it's happening in a controlled way at the micro level. So you have to understand macro to micro, micro to macro. And that's how I'm looking at society, from the micro, from the individual cell all the way to freaking nations. Okay? But everything in between, from the cell to the individual, to cell to the organ, to the system, to then the human, and then the family, the community, the company, the county, the state, the nation, and then as part of its other counterparts with the allies, okay? I mean, you start seeing from the micro how cells manifest all the way to the macro to how nations are reacting to cancer disease and chronic illness. And then you'll see what's going on the inside. Like you're seeing like Fauci and Trump and all these different governors and whatever. You're seeing how they would react to something in their environment when they don't have a balance of their body, mind, and spirit, where they have to be very discriminatory. Like everybody has to be locked up inside that has imbalances because they can't handle the environment. Well, they're speaking, yes, from parts of them that know that they can't handle the environment and they have to be quarantined. And then other parts of them know that they have to be able to move around. They can't be sequestered and then not build up their immunity. So they're stuck between the fight between themselves, and that fight between themselves is also a fight in their community because their community is a representation of themselves. And so you'll see the micro to the macro, and you see the patterns in our society on a very continuous basis because you'll see that everything is related. It's not compartmentalized. Oh, it's not just, the Democrats, Republicans in Stark County and this county and that county and this governor, and this state and that state. No, they're all connected. It's just a representation of parts of you that are imbalanced or balanced relative to what their intention and their message is. The Republicans are the independent part of you and the Democrats are the dependent part of you. And then there's that fight. There's that imbalance in body, mind, and spirit in most people who take on those identities of Democrat, Republican, independent, and whatever, because they take on an extreme side. They're coming from a very subjective point of view, and they have issues with both of those things. It's not like they just subscribe to Democrat or just subscribe to Republican. They have a little bit both, but one's going to win out. But then they realize that you do need people in your society. You do need to have infrastructure. You can't be just a capitalist. You can't be just a socialist, communist. You got to have a mixture of it all when you live in a world of people, no different than your body. You just can't have your heart and that's it. You got to have your lungs. You got to have your other vital organs, and you got to have everything. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you. And she says, I love Julie G's lessons about our lives and how to look after ourselves' well-being. Yes. And to see how everything is connected. So you understand Jilly Juice, why you have to feel pain, why you can't be discriminatory. So, and then, hanging with my husband and all that. And And then what did I say? Micro, okay. Yeah, micro and macro. That's one thing you understand about micro to macro. And then, the thing with Bill Gates, my Lord. So, I mean, I'm not going to really talk too much about that. I mean, Bill Gates, his time is ending. He's aging and degrading. Here's the thing. Bill Gates is not a representation of a healthy person. So when people say that he's not vaccinated, okay, big fucking deal. Who cares? He's not really a representation of good health either. He's aging, he's degrading. Okay, I mean, he has kids. Okay, fine. But he's aging and degrading. That right there in itself should tell you that he is not a representation of health and well-being. But he is a representation of transition if you want to live in that world of stays of execution, of the cures, of the transitions, okay? But is he the end-all, be-all? Is Bill Gates? No, he's not. Though I love using his work, his inventions, because it helps me get my message out. So, a broken clock can be right twice a day. No different than those that are out there talking smack against me. A broken clock we write, twice a day, but doesn't mean they're right about Jilly Juice. Does Bill Gates write about the vaccines? Yes, for some people, but not for everybody. But who determines who gets it? Well, I mean, some people don't know, and then you say you want to live, and then you die, and then some of the family goes like, well, what the hell did they die from? But I mean, that's the thing, is who are they going to blame? And if they don't get a vaccine, they die anyways. Who would they blame? It's kind of a mess. And so the government does its best to figure out how to deal with every single person out there. And Bill Gates is not a medical doctor, but neither am I. Neither is Dr. Phil. So Dr. Phil, Jilly Juice, and myself, and all of the YouTubers out there, the Pathos and the Jeff Holidays, none of them are medical doctors, but everybody seems to have an opinion on what is life-giving and healthy. And that's when you have to refer to academia. You have to refer to the foundational sciences that founded us, that allowed us to live for this long. Even though some of us are dying, not all of us, but some of us are dying. But what has kept you alive for this long? And expand that versus expanding on the death process. But, oh my God, but it's about balance. And that's when you have to understand what probiotics are. have to understand what nutrition is. You have to understand what mucus is. You have to understand what diagnosable diseases are. Every single diagnosable disease out there is a body trying to adapt. And some have a harder time adapting, so that's why they have a chronic condition, or they are managing it with their medications, because they have consistent inabilities to adapt at the level that they should. So yeah, they're adapting because they're maintaining, but they have to take these intermediaries, these hormones, they have to take these prescription drugs, these cannabis, these remedies, because they have a hard time adapting on their own. They don't know how to use food to their advantage because the food supply is not working for them because they have leaky gut. But oh God, Wikipedia says leaky gut has not been substantiated. Well, look at the aging population. They have the second law of thermodynamics being triggered. Wasted energy. They're eating food. Some of these people who are older, they're eating food. They're eating steak. They're eating potatoes. They're eating all this food, and yet the food isn't working for them. It's not giving them maximum longevity. They're dying at 70, 80, 90, and they are going older. Their hair is graying, so their body is stealing resources from their hair. Their body is stealing resources from their bones, hair, skin, nails, all of that. And so, no, they're not maximizing the food supply. So leaky gut does exist. Leaky gut basically is the second law of thermodynamics. It is wasted energy. And so you have to understand how to heal and seal so you can maximize your food supply so you don't have adverse reactions to any food. Food would just be food. Okay? Anything that's FDA approved or fruit and vegetable is something that your body can handle. And then you use the J juice to then help calibrate and recalibrate your body. Somebody that I took on my Facebook who's total into the workout world and whatever and anti-vax and just is like lost in that world. She was saying that she's from South Africa, or her husband's from South Africa. Maybe some of you might know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to call her out. But her husband's from South Africa, and the indigenous South Africans, okay, that were indigenous to that world, their tribes would go to the ocean and drink the ocean water to then recalibrate their body to push everything through. So even the tribal nations knew back then that salt is an energizing force, though they didn't understand the thing with fermentation and leaky gut because these tribes still had death and reproduction. Okay, that's how they were able to maintain. But they understood the power of releasing the excess and recalibrating. But that was only half the equation, which the holistic world is still only half the equation. Bill Gates, only half the equation. Now we have the other half of the equation, and then now we have to put it all together and understand balance, and there is a place for it all. And so, yeah, I have come off very, very critical, almost to where I'm insulting people and their politics. I don't apologize for it because you got to go from one extreme to the other to understand balance in between. Like, I've given up really debating about I mean, as far as being upset about people who are anti-vax on my page, unless you're coming from like a really shitty point of view where you're calling me a shill, I'm not going to block anyone that has their feelings about, vaccines. I'll give my 2 cents and then you can read their 2 cents and then you'll understand that no matter what, if you have predispositions, pre-existing conditions, regardless of whose fault it is, you have now the ability with J-Juice to fix that biochemistry. So that way you can be exposed to a virus or a vaccine and not have crazy adverse reactions. And you'll be fine and bounce back. Okay? So it's like I'm just over all of that of being mad about it. I understand your guys' position, but at some point you're going to have to choose how to be objective, how to work in the middle, understand the power of the salt and the Jilly juice, and how it is kind of like it is exercising your cells at the micro level. And if you're not eating enough food, you will deplete yourself. So if you are an exercise enthusiast, drinking just J juice, eating only fruits and vegetables, and maybe a few nuts and seeds for proteins or whatever, and you're not eating meat, you could deplete yourself. Okay, you could deplete yourself. So we don't want that. We got to have a well-balanced diet that has everything in the 4 food groups. So the government was right as far as the 4 food groups. Why people cannot handle the 4 food groups is because they have imbalances in their body, mind, and spirit. And so the whole thing with the J juice is to then balance out your body, mind, and spirit. And then you can eat all the foods out there, regardless of what it is, on a minimal basis. And if you have any more food than not, you'll see an imbalance in your biochemistry, but it's not going to be like a diagnosable disease, because you'll see the imbalances will be the indicators. And that's where I'm at, where I can see imbalances, but they're not going to be turned into diagnosable diseases. And then I can go and recalibrate my body because I recognize what's going on. And I'm not unhealthy. It's just the fact that, if you want to look a specific way and you're eating more of this food than that food, then it's time to either do exercise or drink more J juice. I'd rather, do both and eat food. And then you have the best of all the worlds. But you have to get through your cancer, disease, chronic illness, and diagnosable diseases first before you can get to where I'm at, where I can play these experiment games as far as, working with my weight and vanity pounds and all of that. I'm very healthy. And I can adapt to anything in the universe that comes at me. I'm not afraid of the different strains of the COVID. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of dying from a heart attack or a stroke. I'm not afraid of any of the natural cause of why people die. Okay, or anything else out there. Okay, so that's the thing with the J juice. It gives you such peace of mind, and then you'll be able to sleep at night, and you'll know how to control your bodily functions. You'll learn how everything works in your body, and you won't be afraid. Okay, so anyways, that's all I'm going to say for right now. But I just wanted to give a longer Facebook Live today. But you guys are amazing. Stay on the J juice. My book's coming out June 2020. I'm waiting for the final. And yeah. And then I'm writing another book that will come out probably maybe towards the end of the year, beginning of next year. But I really have to do a lot more research on it. And that's bringing to balance everything. That's showing how everything is connected in our society. Because when you're on Facebook and the internet, you are seeing now a bird's eye view of everything. And then when you finally become objective, you can see how everything is connected and related. And then you see the balance and the value of it all. And then you can pull out the actual legit information from the bullshit, from the scare tactics, from the gossip, from all of that crap. And you'll rise above the gossip, the hearsay, the unsubstantiated claims about people, places, and things. The law is the last say. The laws, the life and laws of death are the last say. The laws of our land are the last say. And if it has not been substantiated by the laws of life and the laws of death, as well as the law of the land, then everything you're hearing about on Facebook is freaking hearsay, and you won't entertain it. And you'll stop calling freaking Bill Gates the Antichrist. That's when you know you've evolved, when you stop calling people the Antichrist. Okay? All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.